I will start saying welcome to everyone who's here. And we're happy you're with us. And my name is Rebecca Mandelqvist, working for Region Västerbotten in Sweden. And I'll be guiding you through the afternoon. It was not supposed to be me, it was my colleague, but he is sick. So I will try my best to lead you through this webinar. I've seen it's participants mostly from Sweden and Finland, but some from Ireland and Iceland too. And I hope you will be with us for these 2 hours. I will try to change my picture here. So, this is the agenda for today. We'll start with an overview of InnoGS by our project leader, Mariia. And after that, we will move on with the introduction of gamification and digital solutions, and why they are considered in different areas. And next step is that my project colleagues from InnoGS are presenting different cases from their regions. And after the break, we're looking forward to have a Menti brainstorm session with you. And now let's hear Mariia and give us some intro to the project.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Rebecca. You are doing really well.
Thank you.
We had to do some late minute changes, so yes. Just a second. I share your my screen, so just shortly, and I also prepared a short speech because I have a habit of babbling a lot, so that's why I did a pre-work, and I wanted to make sure that I say the important things and share them to you. Okay, so here you can see a map from our project. NPA Interreg is our funding instrument. So from light blue, you can see the areas that it's about the NPA area, and here is our partners. So as Rebecca said, I'm Mariia Hämäläinen. I come from Savonian University of Applied Sciences, and also my colleague he's my team colleague and comes from Sustainable Society team. And I noticed that there is some Savonian colleagues here also today. So that's really great. Welcome to you also. And we are as a coordinator in this InnoGS project. So InnoGS, it's about developing rural, sparsely populated areas, and we share common challenges like the loss of talent, limited opportunities, skill shortage, and young people, they are moving away because they don't see enough possibilities for them in the future. And also they don't necessarily have enough possibilities. It's not only they don't see the possibilities. And what we stand for is innovation through gamification solutions. And the core idea is that the gamification and game thinking, it can be powerful tools. They can be powerful tools for regional development and engagement, learning, and also innovation. But for us, gamification, it's not about making things more fun. only not more making things more fun. It's about creating meaningful ways to involve people and support participation, developing skills, and solve complex challenges together. And in practice, we have already used role play successfully in a regional development session, international conference, and we have been piloting co-working spaces, for example, in Ireland and in Sweden for creative talents. They have been really successful. And we have been developing digital platforms to engage young people, despite the long distances in these areas. And we also see really strong potential in game industry and digital creative sectors. And especially because, of course, they offer possibilities for remote work, but also entrepreneurship and new kind of career paths. We started on March 2025, and we will continue until February 2028. Our budget is 1.6 million euros. And as here are several our partners, we have a strong international consortium and also 13 associate partners. So no possibility, unfortunately, present them all. But here is a couple of our partners. There is some missing, as you can see from the map. There is from Finland. There is HUMAC as Humanistic University of Applied Sciences, and also Government of Finland and Ministry of Education and Sports and Culture. So and church, but mainly the education, Ministry of Education. They are not here, but others are. So, and our role is coordinator, and I'm project manager. So I hopefully make sure that these different pilots and perspectives and regional needs are connected into a coherent international project. And the work remains practical and useful and aligned with the needs of our target groups. And in other words, I help. You can give me feedback, but I help keep the big picture clear while supporting our partners in turning ideas into concrete actions. So, from my behalf, warm welcome to you all, and I would like to give the turn now. Would you, Àsta, give us the honor and present yourself?
Oh, okay. Hello, it's Mariia. I am Àsta Olga from the University of Iceland. Just a second. I didn't know it was my turn. I just need to close the door.
Maybe you can present yourself as a colleague from the team of My Sustainable Society Savonia.
Yes, quickly. Àsta can be after me. I be quick here. So I'm Kalle Sievänen, from Savonia University of Applied Sciences, RTS specialist in this project. I bring my knowledge about game industry and gamification, and I also be in this project as a communication manager. Now, please, Àsta.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm at the Office of Innovation and IP at the University of Iceland, and I will be talking about game jams today. And my background is in interaction design, creating interactive exhibitions. So I worked a lot with scientists in science communication through interaction. So I hope to share something relevant for you here. I will share my slides now.
Àsta, you can just introduce yourself now, right? And then we take your presentation later.
Oh, like that. I'm sorry. I was with.
So we can jump over to.
I see.
And actually, now in our InnoGS team at Savonia, there is also Sami who is here. I told only Kalle because I thought that if you don't make it,
Yeah. Although I was able to join today, but yeah, sorry, I'm a bit sick at the moment, so but still able to join. It's great to see you everyone here, and I'm Sami Partanen. I'm an RDI expert at Savonia, mainly working with this project on the engagement of the youth and gamification, game education expert, and also networking with other organizations and professionals to get to the goals and outputs and results we have in this project. So that's my main part, and of course I'm working on those practical things in events, whatever we do. So let's be part of the project.
And then a whole project group now. So maybe John, you can say a few words before we go further to the agenda.
Oh, apologies. Sorry, the internet, as it does, clicks in and out. In advance, I'd like to say we're moving into a new office today, Ardán. So if you hear any drilling in the backgrounds, that's okay. My name is John Crowley. I'm the European Projects Coordinator in Ardán, charity based in the west of Ireland, and which works with the film industry, TV industry, animation, and games industry. Today, I'll be chatting briefly about gamification and how it can reduce social isolation in the west of Ireland and in turn our other partners. Just in advance, I want to say that some of the issues that we face in Ireland are similar to the other issues that InnoGS partners have. So apologies if I cover issues already spoken about. But it's to the strength, I think, of this grouping that we are working to get to work with some of the issues that affect all of us. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And then I think that the last one of our is Johan. I don't know if you're here right now, but his colleague,
I'm here.
you're here. So maybe you introduce yourself before your colleague Kristofer can speak.
My name is Johan Linder, and I'm CEO for Creative Crowd, a company in the north of Sweden where we work with games for impact. So we try to use games to change the world for the better. And I will talk a bit about one of the game projects we're working on regarding forestry to introduce that subject to you. Besides that, we're working in the project quite a lot to support everything that's happening, doing events and working with minors to give them the culture they need, where they live, policy development and all of that. So hi everyone, talk to you later.
Thank you. I think it's time for Kristofer to share your presentation about gamification solution and why are they considered valuable.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me all right? Yeah, nice. Yes, I'm going to see if I can share this without any hassle, which would be, the first time ever in maybe we do like this. Let's see. So if we share the screen and we go here. There we go. Do you guys see the presentation?
Yes.
Because I can't see you.
We see your presentation in right mode, I think.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right. Hey, everyone. My name is Kristofer Stenskog. I have been working as a game designer for the last 14 years or so, 13, 14 years or so. And about 10 of those I've been working with gamification solution, applying game theory on various projects from small local things to international police force educations in de-escalation techniques and things like that. So low and high, and I am a strong ambassador for why gamification is a very potent tool. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about the why and the what, so to speak. I'm not gonna go into the how to apply gamification, because that's a full-on course, not for a speech. But hopefully when I'm done, you're gonna have a little bit more meat on your bones, as you say in Sweden, when it comes to gamification. So starting off, it's basically these four things, right? Games for impact is games that make a difference in the world, or make people think or be inspired to do change. Games for good is basically the same thing, but it focuses more on games that make us that lets us make choices that are better for the common good. Serious games is applying gaming to things that usually wouldn't have it, and game-based learning is applying gamification to education. So all of these words, or all these kind of things, do have gamification in common. So that's kind of the thing that ties all these together. I think you probably heard about most of those, and from my perspective, they are very, very, very close connected. It's all about how you apply gamification to different things. So for me, it's two things. Gamification is two things. You should not forget the first one. That's what one of the things we call a trap, is to forget that gamification is not just applying motivators for games on other things. It's also understanding why we gladly give our time and effort to games. So it's not, we call it the points and leaderboards trap, that you might think that slapping some leaderboards on something will make it just so much better, because gamification and sometimes it does. Sometimes it's a very stable central technique, but it's definitely not all of the things you can do, all of the things you can grab from games. The impact is pretty visible. I'm gonna come into what it's all about in just a second, but the impact is very measurable. This is from Medium in a big what do you call it? When they did research from how staff reacts from being from having gamification applied on their workplace. So basically 9 out of 10 feel more productive, and 19 out of 20 enjoy it. So if it just comes to being enjoying a thing that you might not always enjoy, it's very impactful. But it also gives more additional values, like being more productive, or feeling inspired, or feeling that this is from a workplace, right? But it can be applied to other things as well, if done properly. A place where you want to continue to something you want to continue being a part of increases when applying gamification. So why games? Why do we use games to find these motivators? So this first and foremost it's by popular choice. So the game industry is pretty big. As a species of primates, we love when it comes to to choosing entertainment, we do choose game a lot. We choose it with our time and our wallets. This is measuring our wallets. So if you take the whole music industry and you combine that with movies and TV and the box office, and then you double that, you only need a smidge more to get to the actual total revenue of the games industry. So that is more than twice the size of TV and music put together. It's enormous, and it just definitely there's some magic here that we can take away, and especially since games are both this. I think this pillar is this high because it's an interactive medium that we can engage with, and we can which makes it double the positiveness of grabbing that and putting it into other things. So the thing that happens in your mind when you play games, that and I already mentioned that a few times. So motivators is basically things that tells your brain that it's doing something that is worthwhile. You will have a bunch of motivators in your life from doing other things. Something that you do, you might mow the lawn, or you might do your laundry because the promise of having completed the task and doing something for yourself in the future is pretty strong. It's not fun usually to do these things, but we still find motivators that pulls us through. So but when you're playing games, and I bet a lot of you do, I bet a lot of you either play games, or I bet you have some game from your past that you still remember fondly. From me personally, I can name, I think I can name at least half the characters still from Final Fantasy VII, and I can name, the pieces of the map, the magic spells, or the materia that was good. I still have all these facts in my head, probably much better than some of the classes I took in school, even those I decided that I wanted to keep with me. So why is it like that? Why does the brain work like that? Well, I'm sorry, that was a bad segue. I'm gonna get to that, but game knowledge, the weights in your head that's connected to game knowledge is usually functions of strategy and story. It's the what and the when and the why of what you're doing things. So it's usually these three things. So if all of you now imagine your favorite game that you play right now, that you have played in the past, and think of, if you can recall the functions in the game, what were you doing when you were pressing buttons or rolling dice or whatever you were doing? Or if you can remember a good way to win or progress or have fun in that game, and also what the story was about. Doesn't have to be complex, but you remember perhaps some key points of the story from the game you were playing. So that is a weight your brain is taking on. It's taking on a bunch of information. It's obviously changing its behavior from your everyday when you're playing these games, and it stores a bunch of information, and it does so happily. So you could say that, so this weight is equal to, so if you are decent at playing a game, let's say you play Arc Raiders, you know about some weapons and their statistics, you have some idea of the story and characters and stuff around that. That's for your brain. That's easy to learn, right? That learning playing Arc Raiders or playing a game of something that you want to play is very, very easy. But for your brain, that it's not different. There's as many points of memory doing that as learning the whole periodic table, including the atomic weights of all the elements and their position and their interactability with each other. And one of these is extremely simple, just happens by themselves, and the other ones seem probably like something that most of us never fathom that we would ever be able to do. So that's kind of the big challenge, or the big thing that games do, that magic that we want to take away. Imagine applying this to whatever you want to learn, or whatever you want to feel like, or change a behavior in this amount, in the same way. So how do we approach this, or how do I approach this, I should say? There's a number of ways to do this. I am a follower of something called actionable gamification, which is a specific method of several. I do like it the most from what I've read, and I do recommend it the most. So basically, actionable gamification talks about motivation drives. These are the 8 drives that everything is sort of being compiled into different parts. It's everything from very, very positive things in the top, like meaning, very sort of white hat drives, as we call them. Meaning is the feeling of being a positive force on others, or being the hero. While at the bottom you have avoidance. The possibility of loss doesn't necessarily have to be in reality. It could be if you do not log in 24 hours, you will miss your daily login bonus in your mobile game. That's motivation through avoidance. And these are good at the top, and sort of stressful at the bottom. The ones in the top are very good for making you inspired and making you feel good. And the ones in the bottom are very good at changing your behavior and pushing you into changing the way you do things. So and they're also loosely the things on the left side of this is very connected to logic and fact, and the ones on the right side is connected to feelings, but that's a little more loosely. So that sounds awesome, but how do you apply? Well, for me personally, taking something that we want to apply gamification to, we try to figure out which of these will be the strongest, and the ones we want to focus on and the ones we want to avoid, depending on what we want to do, depending on who's going to play it or use the thing we're applying it to. And then we use and then we can apply techniques, and this is either in a broad sense of what this can turn into, or you can use, sometimes I just use what is in the actual, this is called the
Sorry, Kristofer, I have to interrupt, but are you having just can you start to ending your session or different?
Yeah. I'm just this is sort of the frame second to last.
Great,
so
great.
I'm not going to go through these, don't worry. I'm just going to show that there's a lot of stuff you can do. You can apply a lot of techniques to this. This is very granularly. You can really think about how this is and what to apply. And the last one, as an example, is how LinkedIn uses gamification. For example, which focuses on accomplishment and ownership. They have progress bars. They push you into using accounts, which give you more meaning. They do not work that much with unpredictability. There's not a lot of booster packs or anything like that. It's very focused on your ownership and your accomplishments. So for an example, how you can apply. All right. Then that might be everything from me. I hope that was not too fast or too much at the same time.
It was really interesting, and I would like to hear more, but you have to keep the schedule today.
Absolutely. definitely respect that. But thank you so much for having me and listening to me. And yes, I would love to come back and talk more about these things. It's a very strong passion. So yeah.
You're welcome. Thank you. Then we move over to Àsta, and now it's your turn to share your presentation and talk about game jams to investigate innovation and thinking with youth.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. And sorry, I was a bit eager earlier.
No worries.
This was extremely interesting, Kristofer. Thank you very much. It's so good. It's actually a very good kind of intro to my presentation, because I'm not going into any detail of why games or gamification. I'm just going to jump directly into this game jam concept. No, I'm just looking for
I just want to say, because I have forgot, that if someone has questions, maybe save them to after all the presentations and the cases, or write them in the chat. That's also a way to ask questions. So, Àsta.
Okay, then
Yes.
we can just start. Yes, so as I said, I am Àsta, and I will talk about game jams. I guess why I'm so inspired by game jams is because I've tried them myself, and I have also worked, as I said, with interactive exhibitions where we had lots of co-creation with scientists and researchers, often communicating topics that were at their heart through some interaction and sometimes games. So what is a game jam? For those who don't know, it's kind of a fun creative workshop where people come together and make games from scratch. And it's experienced game makers and designers. And it's not a LAN party where you meet up to play games. It's more about prototyping games and thinking about games. So everything that Kristof said earlier is kind of about the core of games and why we like games. This is one platform of how to dive more into it. So it involves mentors and makers and creative thinkers of all ages. Some game jams are directed at younger audience, and some are open for everyone. It can be in person or online or mixed. The duration can vary a lot, 2 to 3 days sometimes, and 2 to 3 weeks or longer. I'm not the expert in this. I have tried both types. And then when you introduce the game jam, it can be focused on digital games, and then it's more like a hackathon, or it can be analog games. It could be a competition at the end or very open. Sometimes there are some themes. The theme can be very abstract, presented through visuals, just like some sensation, or it can be concrete themes. For example, like about sustainability or some specific topics that have to do with the place or the group who is meeting up. So it could look like there are some different pictures. So it can look like a workshop, a design thinking workshop, where you evolve your different roles. It can also be like a computer lab where everybody is like on the screens and coding something. There are usually some lectures and in between, and some fun events. So why would anybody join a game jam or initiate the game jam? So the game enthusiast would just go there because it's a fun community. It's maybe her or his hobby. You meet like-minded people. For the indie game maker, it's essential because it's where the seeds for the next game are planted. and you might find your team partner to create the next game. Then for researchers, it can be this forum for co-creation and alternative dissemination of research. For example, if you want to communicate aspect of sustainability research or heritage topics. And the educator is kind of communicating the diversity of games, emphasizing different aspects in game thinking. For example, like Kristofer spoke about earlier, some games are encouraging collaboration, others deepening the storytelling. And what game jams introduce is the kind of they open up this toolbox and broaden your imagination about what type of games you can make. And then for the municipality, because here we're thinking, why would the municipality or authorities get involved? We believe it broadens the innovation ecosystem and it can empower youth through game thinking and also involve those who are thinking about games or designers, involve them more in the innovation ecosystem. It's a very good mean also to reach out to the younger generation because they're already speaking through games. And I think, like we said earlier, we have all played games and we have our favorite games. At some point, we didn't have enough time, but we have our own language of games. It's one of us, which we can apply more. So what I want to introduce here is how we can, if we bring together municipality initiatives and the game makers and designers community, and then the researchers, if we bring that together and set up a game jam for local youth in an area which, for example, a rural area, for example, which Mariia spoke about in the beginning, which we are addressing our target group. We have to keep in mind that the game jam is not, we're not thinking about a product. We are thinking about the process, the act of meeting, making games together. That is playful by nature. So don't be fixated on, okay, what will be the final result. Also, just these are some learning points, the onboarding time, because new participants or people who have never taken part in a game jam, it needs preparation. So you need to create ownership within the community. It will take time to bring those different stakeholders together. And then reaching youth, that is also not to be taken for granted, even though we are doing something that we think is lots of fun for youth. They might not realize or catch on. It's good to go through the school's systems and know what the schedule is, even align it with some activities in the educational or activities with youth activities in the area. Of course, sounds obvious, but it's always good to be remindful of that. And we are doing this, so we are bringing together municipality, independent game creators and designers, and the research community in Húsavík, which is in the north of Iceland. And now I'll just tell you how these three circles will are being realized there. So we have Húsavík Leikajam, that is, Húsavík is a place and Leikajam is game jam in Icelandic. So we've created like a little teaser and we've set up meetings with students and people involved in the schools in this town. And in this green circle, so we're planning this for September this year. In the green circle, we have like the local actors. We have a learning community in Húsavík with STEM education, and we have an incubator center. Then we have in the purple circle, we have Game Makers Iceland. They are like a grassroots organization and very experienced in running game jams. And they have a very good community, but it's very kind of local. You would never go to their game jams just because you are 20 and you play board games, So it's very much about bridging this together. And then we have the research center of the university in Húsavík, who are focusing on the ocean and the coastal ecosystem. And by bringing their knowledge in, that will and having the theme of the game jam, the ocean, it will inspire the youth to use elements from them in their game making. It's not obligatory, but it will inspire them and it will make the whole ideation more place-based. So I just have one more slide, and that's just what we hope to achieve. We hope to inspire the youth in the area with new digital and entrepreneurship toolkits. We hope for like a stronger community communication and collaboration between, like, for example, the incubator center and the research center. And it could be job creation for game designers and workshop facilitators. Also, the skills transfer from the Game Makers Iceland to the local youth in the north. Also, very much we hope to see richer game making and gamification with more local knowledge and better interaction when you all the things that Kristofer was talking about add sort of spices to the game making. We don't want to see too homogeneous games because we have so many ingredients in our heritage and nature. Yes, and then at the end, more optimism for creative jobs in the communities. Thank you very much. I look forward to questions and discussions later. I think mine was a bit quick, so we probably gained time.
Thank you, Àsta. Then John, your turn. You can present your play, engage, stay, how gamification can empower youth retention.
So speak for like half an hour and then get into the first points. So what I'm going to do today is be as brief as possible. What I want to talk about is gamification and reducing social isolation in rural Galway and the west of Ireland. So first of all, thank you for joining today's webinar. How gamification can help reduce social isolation in rural communities, particularly in County Galway and the west of Ireland and across the west, which is and why this approach is becoming increasingly important for youth engagement, community well-being, and rural development. I know it's been covered already about what gamification is, but specifically to address the issues in rural social isolation, I'll just briefly go over a few sentences. Gamification is the use of game-like elements in non-game settings. So this can include points and rewards, challenges and missions, teamwork, storytelling, collaboration, digital interaction, and shared goals. And in real life, it is actually quite different from what you would think when it is read out. We would be talking about social situations where people may not have the tools or the background themselves to, or even the necessary financial backing to create certain initiatives, which is where things like Discord comes in, and it's a huge game changer for people who are in rural areas. Say importantly, gamification is not simply about entertainment, competition, and in our view, community and work group settings, it's often used as the tool to increase participation and motivation, inclusion and social connection. So to start, the challenge of social isolation in rural Ireland, and many rural communities across the west of Ireland and even wider into Ireland experience challenges linked to social isolation. So young people, older adults, newcomers, geographically isolated residents can face, for a start, limited public transport and fewer social spaces, reduced access to youth services, and long travel distances, which leads to like fewer opportunities for informal interaction and the likes. In smaller towns and villages, people may know each other, but that does not always mean that they feel connected or included, which is where gamification comes to the fore. For young people, especially even, there can be feelings of boredom, disconnection, or lack of opportunity. So traditional rural activities and organizations don't always appeal to everyone. And some individuals can feel excluded from existing social structures. So to get to the point, I guess, this is where gamification, as we see it, can offer huge possibilities. So gamification can help build social connections. Gamification creates structured but enjoyable opportunities for people to interact and work together. So instead of relying only on formal meetings or traditional activities, communities can use, as I was saying before, collaborative challenges, digital storytelling, community missions, interactive events, or shared achievements. And we've seen how in our day-to-day at Ardán, how that is, it's, well, to use a pun, it's a game changer, absolute game changer. They can use shared achievements to encourage participation and strengthen relationships. And the key point is that these activities create engagement through experience and interaction rather than the usual, which is, well, rather than asking people simply to attend something, gamification encourages them to actively contribute and solve problems together or feel part of a shared journey, which is much more appealing to youth than it would have been in the past. I would also say that one important thing to emphasize is that effective community gamification is not always competitive. It's in fact more cooperative. I'd say cooperative approaches are often more successful in rural development and youth work contexts, for example. Teams working together on environmental projects, that's a huge issue for Ireland. Villages collaborating on well-being challenges. Intergenerational storytelling activities. Specifically for Ireland, where you have a gap in the middle where we have a lot of young people going abroad, obviously, due to challenges and housing and whatnot, but then you also have a society that's aging, they're living longer. Intergenerational storytelling is a huge part of a plan that we would have in the film, TV industries. And there's also within that community heritage missions, they can trust, communication, and sense of belonging. And goal, as I think we're earlier talking about, is not necessarily to win, but to connect people through shared experiences. So a regional example from Galway and the west of Ireland would be initially the preparatory projects prepared to gamify for ourselves. And to touch on that briefly, the project explored how gaming and gamification could support rural innovation, youth engagements, digital creativity, and community participation across the west of Ireland. And what is particularly important about this example is that it recognized gaming and gamification as tools for society and community development, not just entertainment. On a weekly basis, we see how gamification is in balance, integral. It's already part of our societies, and maybe part of our job is to identify it and show how essential it is. Projects like this can demonstrate how creative digital engagement can help rural communities by reducing isolation, encouraging collaboration, building confidence, and developing valuable digital skills. It can also help to create opportunities for young people to engage with their local communities in new and meaningful ways. So practical examples of gamification in rural communities. Examples, very briefly, community treasure hunts and heritage trails, climate action challenges, volunteering missions, digital badges for participation. I myself was in Cubs, Evers, and Scouts, and now that is not a big part of the community, a digital version of it is great to see, especially for a generation that includes my nieces and nephews and the like. Local art competitions, interactive tourism activities, and village well-being challenges. These activities create reasons for people to come together and participate in community life. They also create what is sometimes called third spaces, which is informal social spaces outside of the home, school, and work, where people can build relationships and feel connected. Inclusion and accessibility is a huge part of this. And it is a very important benefit of gamification. It's not everyone feels comfortable in traditional rural social structures such as sports clubs and formal organizations. Gamified activities can provide alternative pathways for participation, particularly for neurodiverse young people, socially anxious individuals, newcomers, migrants, young women, LGBTQ plus youth, and people with different interests or abilities. Because gamification often values creativity, collaboration, storytelling, and problem solving, it allows a wider range of people to contribute and feel recognized. Mental health and well-being is another huge part. Gamification can also positively support mental health and emotional well-being. Shared activities and collaborative goals can help reduce loneliness and increase confidence. When people feel part of a team or community challenge, they experience a stronger sense of belonging, social recognition, and achievements and connection. I'm getting close to the end. I know I said I'd keep it brief. This is as brief as an Irishman can get. Even small achievements can have a meaningful impact on confidence and motivation, especially in isolated rural settings. The role of digital participation, to conclude, digital technology plays a huge important part in new areas such as online platforms, mobile apps, hybrid activities that allow people from different villages and remote areas to participate together without always needing to travel long distances. This is particularly valuable in rural areas where transport barriers can limit participation. Digital gamification can therefore strengthen both local and regional connections while also supporting digital inclusion and skills development. Final thoughts. To conclude, gamification offers rural communities innovative ways to strengthen social connection, participation, and well-beings. In County Galway and across the west of Ireland, it can help to reduce social isolation, engage young people, create more inclusive activities, build digital and social hubs and skills, and strengthen community identity. Most importantly, gamification is not about turning communities into games, it's about using creativity, interaction, and shared experiences to make participation more meaningful, inclusive, and engaging for people of all ages. As rural Ireland continues to adapt to social and technological change, gamification has the potential to become an important tool for building stronger, more connected, and more resilient communities. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, John. Oh. Now I can't hear John, but thank you. Very important subject. And I think we're a bit after in the schedule, but we will let Johan and Sami talk no, not Sami, it will be Kalle today, before the break. So let's hear Johan from Creative Crowd.
Thank you. See if I can get the screen sharing.
Did something happen to, or no? Here comes Johan.
Can you see my screen?
No, right now it's only white.
I can see also.
Okay. So here.
It's only you, Rebecca.
That's weird. Okay.
All right. But then I'll start. So I'm going to talk about a game we have in production. This is done with financing from Formas. and it is done together with the Swedish Forestry Research Institute and the Swedish Environment Institute. The idea came actually from the Swedish Environment Institute. They wanted to make research data more available and faster, and for people to react on it. And we had a really good discussion with them. And after that, we decided to see if we could create a project from it. And I think when it comes to this game, we are looking into the problem that especially in Sweden, like, forests are needed now more than ever. They are used for timber, it's carbon storage, we need it for the biodiversity, and we need to do all at the same time. The forest needs to stay where it are in the forest, but at the same time, if we're gonna like hold up on the promises that the government has said to reduce carbon dioxide and so on, we actually need to cut down the timber, use it in buildings and so on. We are heating houses, we are making biodiesel, our biofuel from the forest. So it's a very tricky situation actually. And on top of that, we have a very polarized situation where we have environment organizations who are more and more aggressive actually on keeping the forest in the forest. And you have the organizations that work in the forestry industry that needs the forest to the sawmills to produce the wood that's needed and so on. And I would say all of them are the good guys. They want to do the right thing. And they are convinced they are doing the right thing, which makes the situation even more polarized. It's also on a Sweden towards EU level, where like in Sweden for how forests, and Sweden has their line where they consider what we're doing right now being quite good. So it's a very hard situation, and that's what we wanted to simulate in a game, and making it easier to own a forest, to understand what's happening in the future, and so on. So this is a game for both those that own a forest or consider buying a forest. It's especially for like new buyers. I think right now, if you're looking at a property to buy and it also holds a forest, you will think twice or thrice before buying it, because it makes the price go up and you need to manage it in a way. And I think not enough people know how to manage it. So it's an education tool in that way. But it's also good for the environmental institutions, for the forestry industry, and for politicians and bureaucrats, tools to understand like what we're actually talking about, what's needed. And we are, as I said, we are in early production right now. We're working with the game loop and how the game will function. We are trying out some things to see that when we go in full production, everything will work out the way we want it to. But basically, in this game, we are using we did a twin of the using this data, and with that, we are able to buy a real property digitally. That's actually possible. You could actually buy your own property in the long run, and try to simulate your own property over maybe 100 years to see what will happen when the tech develops, when we have geopolitical challenges, when climate becomes more and more harsh. There's maybe forest fires and so on. So try to understand how to manage that in a way. So in the game, you will actually have 3 KPIs that you need to try to score as high as possible. And one of those is, of course, monetization. You need to make money on your property. That's the main driving force today. But you also need to consider the biodiversity in the climate in this. So those are the 3 we'll follow up on. And I think that will be very challenging because they are kind of opposite to each other. But that's the plan. So we're right now building it. We're making the back end and the front end. We're bringing in all the GIS data and building the digital twin out of Sweden, which is really, really interesting. And we are adopting that for a mobile game, so it will be easy to play wherever you are. Yeah, and this is just under the hood, like what it's gonna be. So on top of everything, we have the GIS data that's available from open sources in Sweden, or you need an account, but you can get access to it from Lantmäteriet, who has all the GIS data, and then you talk to Skogsstyrelsen and SLU and others, where you can get like the real I'd call it wood coverage of all of Sweden, how much forest is in specific places, what kind of forest is it, how old is it, how many cubic meters of wood is it, and so on. And then we have a back-end process where we process it, and then we bring it into Godot right now, which is a open source game engine, and that we are building in the front end that you as a consumer will face, and that is actually the game. And in the game, we're also using something called Eureka, which is a simulation tool that the Swedish Agricultural University has developed over 30 years to make a realistic simulation of how fast forest grows, how you can manage forests in different ways, and how that will affect the forest. So it's very, very realistic. And in the game, we are actually using that simulation tool live. So you will have your forest and you will send a request to the simulation database, and in real time get the response how the forest will grow. So it's a very interesting way to use games for impact, I would say, and I think it's innovative in a lot of different ways and opens up new opportunities. So I'm looking forward to see the final result from this. Thank you. That's everything.
Thank you, Johan. Nice to hear a bit more about the Skogsspelet. I see my camera is not working at the time. I hope you hear me.
Yes.
But now, instead of Sami, we will hear Kalle
Yes.
from Savonia.
Yes, I try to be quick because we are a little bit later behind our schedule, and say that I cover Sami today, and I also have a little bit coach. So if I mute myself, I need to coach them. So sorry about that. But about to consider gamification methods, a little bit how we have used gamification in InnoGS in Finland right now. And one important thing here, how we have started to get contact to young people, is to get into their own interests. So first method is like start from something young people are already interested in, and in our cases it's games and game culture. So we have worked on so-called Enokkari, which is a Discord based digital youth center, which work on now North Karelia, but the idea is make it larger, and it's like a full Eastern Finland when we are ready in that work. And the place is to young people to meet other people, to meet and talk and take a part of the activities online. The distances around the towns are really long, so it's much easier to contact youth people and youth workers and other safety adults as online. Of course, they have these communities, local communities, but it makes easier to those which don't have in own town these youth centers. Other case here we had in Kuopio this 3-day game camp last year. There was the idea about the like a physical event, bring the young people come together through their own interests, so playing games. And this idea there was to give them good knowledge to how to make it become a better player and how to make it like a healthy way. In these two cases, the like a game hobby works as a low threshold entry point to young people. They don't have like a feeling that they are joining some kind of project or training, but there's something that feels familiar and motivating to them. So through this, we can also introduce other themes such as teamwork, communication, digital skills, health routines, and taking part of their own well-being. So to like having this interest to like playing games, so it's much easier to make youth to interest this kind of routines or which maybe help them in the future. Look at seminal theme, but the like a second method here is take the elements from these like games and use them these young people to activate and might to activate them to trying to work on like things that are less interesting to them. Like for example, insisting to instead of only giving introductions, the activities can frame it as missions, challenges, other team tasks. So it's like interesting to them, and it feels like it's important also to this youth. In this our game camp, there was we focused on more health-related topic to become the particle challenge to how do you prepare for the long game session, remember these breaks, manage to sleep and work as supportive team member. Yeah, the meaning using game is here to thinking to make partial clear, more engaging and more awarding, and using this gamification like a right amount that it doesn't feel like too how I say too much them. It's like a feel. It's like a right amount, and to feel too happy to make these like activities or something. I lost my words, but the right amount to be in this gamification and not be the old like boring way to make those youth there, and giving the impact that or giving the feeling that they are making something important to them and also to maybe others. To hear the goal is like to move from the come to learn this to more come and solve it together. So it's not only to like adults giving something teaching like this on to like making those like challenges, solving those together. So quickly the closing point. First, we use games as a bridge to reach young people, and then we use game-like methods to support learning, participation, and well-being. So that's all from me.
Thank you, Kalle. Really good. And then also our colleagues had presented their cases, and I just wonder if anyone have questions. You can raise your hand or talk or write in the chat.
I think you need to raise hand that then we can give you the access to speak.
Yeah, maybe that's the case. Thank you, Kalle. Yeah. But if there's not any questions right now, we can go to break, and because we are a bit behind the schedule, maybe we take just 5 minutes to stretch our legs and grab a coffee.